Good afternoon.
Welcome to our first Exxon Mobil Executive Speaker for this semester. I'm delighted to have Susan Kaiser here with us today. Susan is a Lamar University alum, not from business, master's in education, but who coordinates the economic education function at the Houston branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. We're indebted to our students in finance that met her and asked her to come. So it's not one that I got, this is one that they got. So thank you, Karen, thank you. The central bank, she will speak primarily today on monetary policy and, as she says, demystifying central banking. As a central bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve has an impact on many aspects of business, banking, and our nation's economic life. The Federal Reserve is established to provide a safe, flexible, and stable monetary and financial system. It is tasked by Congress to create an economic environment that fosters maximum employment and provides financial stability through the banking system, its monetary policy function. The Federal Reserve also circulates currency, supports the payments system, and supervises and regulates financial institutions. At the local level, the Federal Reserve plays an active role in economic education, community, and workforce development and economic research. Through numerous outreach programs, it interacts with the public and private organizations to strengthen the economy and enhance understanding of monetary policy at the regional, national, and international level. Susan has been with the Federal Reserve for 6 years, leading efforts to develop educational outreach materials and public programs. Prior to joining the Federal Reserve, she taught AP Economics and served as district coordinator of AP Economics for Kingwood ISD. She has 20 years of business experience in the hospitality industry with expertise in all facets of restaurant operations, franchising, strategic planning, and corporate management. She holds a BS in economics from the University of Texas Arlington and MA in education from Lamar University. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you today. Did you guys hear that we were giving away free money? Is that why you showed up? Because we will have shredded money if you leave, or if you're kind enough to answer questions. You can work on putting it together, but it probably won't work. So it will keep you entertained this afternoon. I do have to start every presentation I do with a disclaimer, and that's that the opinions expressed are solely mine, not those of the Federal Reserve System, or anybody that's of any importance anywhere. Okay, so this is just me telling you about the Fed. Janet doesn't have me on speed dial. She's not going to call and ask me what to do, but a pleasure to be here today. So how many of you woke up last night, 3 a.m., burning question about what does the Fed do? All right, let's get more real. How many of you are here for extra credit? Yes, I love it. So here's why I love that. This proves that incentives actually matter, right? Because some of you got out of class, looked outside and said, it's a gorgeous day, I can sit on the grass. Oh yeah, but I really need extra credit because I know there's something I'm not going to study for. So you came here to see me today. So I'm really, really happy to know that incentives work and that you're here to be with me today. At any time you have a question, raise your hand. If I don't want to answer, I'll just say no. But otherwise, we can answer questions as we go. I'll try to leave about 10 minutes at the end for any questions you have about the Fed or questions you have about me personally. You already heard my bio. It sounds nice. What it really means is I can't keep a job. And so now here I am, doing stand-up comedy or something like that. Okay, so just kind of go with me, okay? So we are the central bank, but I like to let people know we're not the only central bank out there. A lot of times people are like, well, the central bank of the U.S., they're in charge of everything. In fact, the first central bank was the Bank of England. We see 1600 there. Even before us, the central bank was Japan. They're having some challenges right now, but they've had a central bank longer than we have, which just says that you don't get it right just because you've been around longer, okay? Otherwise, Abenomics would be working better than it is. We have the Federal Reserve Bank that's in D.C., and then we have our newest central bank, the European Central Bank. Lovely pictures, right? So here's the big question. What do they do? There's some things that they have in common that I'm going to sort of generically tell you about, and then we can do a deeper dive into how we do those things here in the United States, okay? Everybody good with that? Awesome. All right, so the first thing we do is we issue banknotes. We do not actually print the money. Who prints the money?
You're all writing and printing.
Oh my
The mint.
Okay, so you get the first thing. I'm going to throw it at you, but it's not going to hurt if I bat in. I didn't play basketball. Okay, so you are the writing and printing. Where are they located? We'll
Fort
see.
Worth in Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh, have you been there?
Yes.
Okay, so Washington, D.C. Here's what you need to know. They have an amazing tour. It's free, and there's nothing like watching sheets of paper come off a printing press and going, my gosh, that could be mine. If I graduate from Lamar and get a really good job. Okay, that's an important thing to remember. So we issue banknotes. We buy them from them at the cost it costs to print them, so about 5 cents for ones, about 13 cents for $100 bills. Why the difference in price?
This is security.
What'd you say?
The security on the bill,
What kind of security is on a $1 bill?
I don't think there is any, but there is some on the larger bill.
There's no security on the $1 bill at all. Why?
Because it's so cheap.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. What kind of a dumb criminal do you need to be if you're like, I'm counterfeiting ones, let me tell you about it. You're going to get rich one day. You're like, oh, dude, you are so out of it. So no security on the $1 bill. Why so much security on the $100 bill? Because they're worth a $100 bill, actually. But what else? Who uses $100 bills? So you actually get to look at money, okay? I will say mine been used by a drug dealer, but don't sniff it, you'll be okay, all right? So why the issue about $100 bills? Where does our currency circulate?
All over the world.
After who said that? Oh, awesome. So all over the world, actually, so about not just all over the world, but 2/3 of our currency actually circulates overseas. So most of our currency is overseas. Every picture and so I always ask people, who's the president of Brazil?
A man.
So just in case you want to know, the president of Brazil is actually a woman. Man, they're letting women do anything now. What's happening to the world? Okay, the president of countries. Oh my God, and she's actually in her second term. And why am I asking you that? What kind of exciting things are happening in Brazil soon? The Olympics. So Brazil's been in the news, so you might have heard about it. So there's a big discussion about whether or not she'll still be president by the time the Olympics be there. She may get to step out of office. Why am I asking you this?
The depression going on in Brazil?
No, I don't really care. But I mean, there is. I don't really care. But it's a good answer. Okay. What can I say? We're talking about currency, right? We're talking about a currency circulating overseas. Why do we expect the people overseas to know what the dead white guys on our money look like when we can't even name the current president of their country? Right? I mean, think about that. And we look at other people and go, you don't know the difference between Jefferson and Washington? They both look like dead white guys to me. I wouldn't date either one of them. I mean, it's just like, but you don't know? And we're like, oh, we put their house on the back. You can tell by their house. We're like, seriously? Seriously? No. So we put security features on there instead. Make sense, everybody? So you pull it up to the light. You can see the strips. You can look at the watermarks. And hopefully that'll help people in counterfeiting our currency. So we don't have that happen. I think I owe you some money. There you go. Okay, let's do it. All right, so we issue banknotes. We serve as a bank for financial institutions, government, so we hold the bank account for the U.S. government, right? We maintain the value of currency. What does that mean?
You make sure it's
Like,
not
oh no,
worthless
she's making us
paper.
think. I thought it was just going to be funny.
You make sure it's not worthless paper that's just colored with ink.
Somebody speaking.
She said it makes sure that it's not worthless paper covered in ink.
Yes, absolutely. So maintain that currency. So let me ask you this. What is better? Inflation, prices going up. Deflation, prices going down.
Trick question.
I'm going to let you go. How many people say inflation, prices going up? How many people deflation, prices going down? How many people say my professor's in the room? If I answer wrong, I'm so stupid, so I'm not going. So I only got about 20 hands. What's wrong with the rest of you?
We're thinking.
We're thinking? All right, I'm going to give you 5 seconds.
You like a stable currency.
Inflation? He said he needed 5 seconds. He's going with inflation. Okay, deflation. Some of you are still afraid to go. Okay, we'll talk about this. So what would happen if we have inflation? What does that look like? Well, first of all, remember we talked about price levels, okay, maintaining that currency. It's about purchasing power, right? And so about price levels as a whole. It's not about the price of just milk or the price of just gas, you know, or the price of chocolate, which is a really important commodity in my opinion. But it's not about that. It's about overall price levels, okay? We're going to use an example. Let's say prices go up. And I'm going to use an example. I work at McDonald's, $10 an hour, okay? So he's like, good deal. So he's like, they should pay that around here to the 4-star McDonald's students, because the ones working at McDonald's are not making that. You can talk to them later, okay? And I go to McDonald's, and they have a $1 menu item, right? So I take $4, and I'm going to get cheeseburger, fries, and a drink, and have some change left over. Everybody good with that? I pull up to the menu, and I notice that now instead of the $1 menu, they have the $2 menu. What's happened?
Inflation.
Prices have gone up. That's just one of the things in inflation. Okay, so now the good news is I'm going to lose weight because I'm not going to give you French fries. Okay, I'm going to cheeseburger and soda and find some change for the taxes in my seat cushions. All right, but prices have gone up. Well, what? No need for me to worry, right? Because as soon as I go to work, what's going to happen? Remember we said overall the inflation is not just one price, it's all prices, right? So I'll get a raise, right? So I'll be making $20 an hour. You're shaking your head. Have you worked at McDonald's? She's saying no. What's going to happen?
The firms in the market are going to increase their prices
What?
as well.
Wait, I didn't hear what you said.
Your purchasing power stays the same because of inflation.
Well, so if I got a raise to $20 an hour, then it wouldn't matter because I would use the same amount of time to buy the cheeseburger and fries, right? The ratio of the amount I gave up to buy the cheeseburger and fries would stay the same. But what if I don't get a raise? What if my raise is not to $20 an hour? Then there's some challenges, aren't there? Okay? Historically, we know that minimum wage, this is data you can look at. I'm an econ person, so I love data, okay? So data says that, guess what? Minimum wage doesn't typically rise as quickly as prices. So we lose some purchasing power for those people that are making minimum wage. Here's the good news. I worked at McDonald's and I bought a car. Okay, because bus transportation is undependable late at night, and if you work at McDonald's, you work late at night. I'm going to pay $1,000 for the car. I got it on a note. So if I was making $10 an hour, how many hours was I going to have to work to pay off the car? 1,000 divided by 10. You can get somebody to get off their phone. 100 hours. Okay, good. So now if I'm making, say, $15 an hour, what's the good news?
Less hours you have to work.
Somebody's doing math during lunchtime. So I have to work less hours. So about 75 hours, all right? Give or take. So less hours. So that's the plus side of it. Here's the other thing. I bought that car for $1,000, assuming I was going to sell it right away. What would the new value of the car be? Would it be more than $1,000? I mean, theoretically, right? This is rooted in economics because it's all theoretical, right? So theoretically, it would be worth more. So that's the inflation side. So there's some pluses and minuses there. My car's worth more. I work fewer hours to pay it off. But there's some challenges on making minimum wage because I may not have the same purchasing power. Okay? Let's look at the other side, deflation. Okay? I go to McDonald's, I pull up, I'm all ready for the dollar menu, I have $4, I get there, and they have a 50-cent menu. Looking good, okay? Now I'm going to get 2 cheeseburgers, a large order of fries, I'm going to go rogue, go off the dollar menu item, okay? Just get crazy, right? What's the challenge around that? Again, what's going to happen to my wages? So my wages will decline as rapidly as the person that owns that McDonald's can actually do that, right? So if they could immediately make them $5 an hour, they would. Again, $5 an hour, $2, doesn't matter if the prices are the same, but here's what's going to happen. Remember that car I bought? Or that I promised to make payments on? How much did I say it cost? $1,000. How many hours was I going to work to pay it off? 100. Now I'm making $5 an hour. So does the bank call me and say, Susan, you're such a nice person. We know that your wages have declined. It's not a problem. You can only pay us back, $500. It'll be good. You guys are saying no. Some of you have student loans, I can tell, because they have not called you. You're like, oh, don't worry, it's not a problem. No, that's not how it works. How many hours will I have to work now to pay off that problem?
200.
200. What else do we know about the value of that car? Assuming that we're keeping everything in theory, how much would that car now be worth? 500. And a roll of duct tape, but we don't, okay? So, is that a problem? So, which one of these is a better scenario? Inflation or deflation? I mean, there's challenges on either one of those, right? If we had a perfect world, we would say central bank, give me just 0 right down the line. Do you think that's going to ever happen? No, the economy is like herding cats, okay? You're not going to get it perfect, but we have a choice. And so you need to know that the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, has said our goal is on the side of inflation, and our goal is 2%. So usually what you want to do now is get something out and write that down, 2%, because this is critical information. How many of you want to be economists? Everybody not raising it at once. We're known for our wicked personalities, our social, no. So why do you care about this 2% number that nobody wrote down? How many of you can be business majors? How many have heard of something the cost of financial capital? Oh yeah, how many of you have student loans? Let's start with that. Okay, yeah, wait a minute. And does that 2% matter? Because some of you are going to school because you want to get a job, right? Some of you love your parents and said, I cannot stay with you anymore. Right? Because if you're like, I had 11:30 curfew, it was the one thing that got my children to move out of the house. They're like, are you kidding me? I'm like, if you live here 11:30, they left immediately. Okay? They like that coming back. Who was that? So you're going to get a job, right? When you get that job, how many of you already work? Awesome. How many of you had a performance review? Oh, yeah. How many of you listen to NPR? You have lives. Good. Okay. So here's what you need to know. When you get a job, at some point, your boss will call you in and she will say to you, oh, I did that. I called her a female. Okay, so that's good. And she will say to you, you're the most amazing worker we've ever had. We would like to give you a raise. And you will get really excited and go, could you repeat that part about how amazing I am? And she's like, you're an amazing worker, because it sounds nice to hear it, okay? And she'll say, and we're going to give you a 3% raise. And you're like, yeah, I'm awesome, okay? And you leave her office and you start texting people, like, party at my house, 3% raise, bigger paycheck, life is awesome. And then you headed home and you turn on NPR. And what do they tell you?
Inflation.
Inflation this year was 3.5%. The Fed did not hit their target. Because sometimes we don't. Not as mad as if you look and we don't know it. What just happened? Yeah, your paycheck will be bigger. The numbers on it will actually increase. That electronic deposit that goes into your checking account or savings account, okay, will actually increase. What happens to your purchasing power? It has declined. How many of you are okay with that? Because if you have extra money you don't want, send it to me. I'll give you my address. Okay, I'm happy to do that. And so this is why even if you're not going to be an economist, you need to know about the central bank for your own personal stuff, right? So if you are going to get a performance review, the very first thing you need to do on the day of your performance review, dress really nice, get excited, and then turn on NPR or go online and Google. Google. What do you need to Google? Yes! Oh my God, did I already give you money? Okay. Inflation rate. Why? Because when your boss says to you, you're the most amazing worker we've ever had, right? And says, we'd like to give you a 3% raise, what do you say?
It's a trick.
It's what?
Sorry, it's a trick.
No, me giving money is a trick, okay? Is it a trick?
No, it's
No.
just.
So how many of you are business majors? What is your job when you are in management at a business?
Maximize profit.
Maximize profit? Maximize profit. There we go. Maximize profit, period. Can I maximize profit if I mean, is it okay to give people whatever they're willing to accept as in wages?
She doesn't like salaries.
It's worth a try, isn't it? I mean, if I'm telling everybody that they get a 3% raise and they're like, awesome, then guess what? I've maximized profit for my company. Because they don't know any better. Because they don't listen to NPR or Google inflation. Do you know how many people don't do that? A whole lot of them. But if you're the person that Googled it and said, wow, I'm so glad you appreciate my hard work here. I just wanted to let you know that inflation this year was 3.5%. And they're going to go, oh, you know that. You're like, yes, I know that. So let's continue this conversation. You just said I was awesome. I need at least a 3.5% raise. I mean, I would ask for more, right? People say to me all the time, will you get fired? Well, no, I just told you you're an awesome worker. Do you know how expensive it is for a business to train a new employee? Just getting them put into the system costs money. You know, somewhere between $1,500 to $3,000 minimum when I talk to businesses, that's what it costs them to just get somebody entered into their data program and put you through orientation, right? So if you're a good employee, they're not going to, I mean, the worst I can say is, you know what, I'm really glad you know that, you're an amazing person. We can't give you that raise right now, but let's try to chat again in 3 months. But at least you know that they know that you know, right? So you want to say to them, let's get this straight. I'm willing to work for 0.5% less, but you need to know that I know. And I'm doing this because I love this company and I want to stay with them, and that's a perfectly reasonable answer, isn't it? But we need to renegotiate this in 3 months or 6 months or whatever you want it to be, right? I was in education for a while, and as a teacher, our superintendent would come and tell us this was, and every year he would wait by his door because I would show up and he would be like, "You again?" I said, "I'm here to chat." Because inflation and the rates that they gave to teachers were never equal. And they'd be like, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "I just want you to know that I know." And because I know, the entire social studies department knows, because I share. Because they teach because there really are people that teach history, they don't understand economics, but they always go, "You, Susan, you go talk to him, you understand it." I'm like, "Yes, we will, okay." So, but I wasn't going to quit what I was doing, but he needs to know that I know. Everybody get it? What about the rest of it? Do any of you do financial planning for yourself? Well, the price levels, not the price of one thing, but price levels are supposed to go up 2%. Do you need to factor that into your long-term financial goals?
Yes.
I would hope so, right? And again, if you don't like your money, if you don't want to take good care of it, give it to me. I will love it. I will take care of it, okay? I will talk to it at night if necessary, all right? But think about that. What about if you're working for a business? I met a lovely young lady who's in marketing, and so she doesn't have to worry about the financial condition of the company she works for, right?
No.
Who said no? I don't know who said no, but you could give me. Oh, no, you already got
I
one.
already have one.
No.
Oh, you get it. But do we need to know these things? Absolutely. Okay, so even if you're not going to be an economist, what is our goal for inflation for the United States? 2%. Important to know. Share with those that you love to care about. Okay, we supervise banking institutions. So we make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. The key word is banking institutions. That sort of became a challenge for us during the financial crisis. There were institutions that were not banking institutions, but were acting as banking institutions. So they were having money, they were loaning out money, and they were significant in some industries for short-term financial capital particularly. And so we stepped in to look at that and said, hey, you know what? We created something called the FSOC, and we look at SIFIs now, which are systemically important financial institutions. They don't have to be just banks. Okay, GMAC is one of them, a great example. Not a bank, but it does a lot of loaning. Okay? We established and conduct monetary policy, so we expand and shrink the money supply. We'll talk about that. And we're a lender of last resort. Any questions about that? Everybody good? Okay, we've got pencils for the quiz. No, just kidding. No quiz. All right, so here's the good news. This will make the whole day more fun. Tax dollars are not directly paid for the Federal Reserve, so we are not part of the budget. Whew, that feels good. Right? I am not a federal employee, although I did get Monday off. Okay, that was kind of fun. And so your tax dollars are not paid for this. Last year we gave $97 billion in interest and fees. Well, so we did interest and fees, $97 billion back to the Treasury last year. So that's a lot of money. Okay? And the Treasury needs it because, remember, they are the fiscal agent for the government. How is the government doing with balancing their expenditures versus their income? So they need to take a basic math course, I'm pretty sure. You know, but we can talk about that later. Okay? We are responsible and accountable to Congress. Have a great afternoon. Nobody's noticing that you're walking out. And you're fine. And last week, Chair Yellen actually was testifying to Congress. What was really sad, if you had a chance to watch it, was that some people left. As what happens sometimes when you put an economist in full of room with people just like that, people leave, okay? And I'm like, oh man. So Congress has a chance to know what we do. Sometimes they just don't care. Can't imagine. All right, so here's our challenge as we create the Federal Reserve System. Do we want a national system that is going to oversee the entire United States, or do we want a regional? Do we want the government in charge, or do we want bankers in charge?
Thank you.
That's actually a really hard question. Okay? In Texas, when you ask people if we want the federal government to be in charge, the answer is no. They should put an expletive in front of it, but I'm not going to do that. Because we're so like within our own country, we can do that again. We try to succeed every so often. Then we get down to the government versus banking, and we're not sure. Sometimes we think the government's good at oversight, and other times we're like, yeah, but they don't seem to really care, so maybe not. We're not sure. We have an interesting solution we came to the Federal Reserve back in 1913. We've been around now 112 years. Here's what our system looks like. We have a board of governors, we have 12 districts, and we have something called the FOMC. I have to go to the back.
Janet Yellen.
Look at this group. Makes you wish they won the Bachelor last week for that. So tell me how many of you recognize these people? Which one? Who do you recognize? All of them?
Janet Yellen.
Janet Yellen. Why do you recognize Janet?
Well, by my past 3 econ classes, we all talked about Janet.
Janet is like a rock star to an economist.
Well, I mean, the way I remember her
You
is
talking
like.
trash about Janet?
No.
I like rock star. You're going like, maybe not. Okay.
I just remember her in her face by, like Schoolhouse Rock, Interplanet Janet. Like Janet Yellen. Like, I love the name Janet. So I was like, oh, it's Janet Yellen. She's the chair.
It's the most honest answer I think. I love it. Anybody recognize anybody else? You recognize that?
The Jerome Powell guy kind of looks like Robert Kardashian back in the day. Whenever he was fighting for O.J. Simpson.
I'm not being it. That's the Kardashians. They have so many personal issues that we cannot really get involved in. So here's why I put these people up. This is the Board of Governors, and they are a critical component of creating monetary policy for the United States. We're the largest economy in the world. They're responsible for part of that. And yet nobody knows who they are. Yes, sir, comment.
Why 2 vacancies?
Well, that's a great question. Your representatives were. So we have 2 vacancies. I'll talk about it in a sense. So there are 7 positions. Notice 7 squares. These individuals are nominated by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. There's actually at least 1 nomination that the Senate has not chosen to consider yet. I don't know if this is a second nomination or not because I haven't checked on that lately. So the president nominates, the Senate has to. What is the Senate doing right now? And don't say nothing because that's not time. What is the Senate doing right now?
Figuring out the justices.
Say what? Well, so they are going to be working on the issue of the Supreme Court, but guess what? These vacancies have been around for over a year. So they didn't know that was going to happen.
They want to change in the political executive branch so they're going to appoint other people.
Well, so here's what I think, and I'm going to be, that may be true. I don't know. Again, I don't call them. Here's what I think. I think that the people in the Senate don't understand the importance of this position. How's that for being fair? If they knew and understood how important it was, they would make sure that it was fully staffed. Right, thank you. It's fully staffed all the time. Because here's my thought. Even if I don't agree with all your theories as an economist, there's nothing that makes me better at what I do than somebody that can sit down and have a discussion with me and say, here's where you're wrong, here's where you're wrong, here's where you're wrong, right? Because then what happens? I have to go back and look at my arguments, right? And either I look at my arguments and go, you know what? I really am correct, and here's some more data to help you understand why I'm correct. Or I'll say, you know what? I was wrong. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Let me change my position and find some new data. Does that have value?
Yes.
Now, we're asking these people to help chart a course for our country. A monetary course. That's a really important responsibility. I think it's really important. And so I would like to have as many people in the room as possible to share their wisdom and their knowledge. What else do you notice about these people? Are they young?
Well,
No, they're not young.
the
I mean, it doesn't mean
label.
young people aren't smart, but these people are smart and they have a lot of experience. So we have Janet, who was a professor at Stanford, who got all kinds of degrees. Stanley Fisher was actually the governor of the Bank of Israel. So he has a really great understanding. And he was at IMF and the World Bank. Yeah, so he's got a lot of international experience. Is international experience important right now with what's going on globally?
Yes.
Absolutely. We're concerned about our country, but our country doesn't operate in a vacuum, do we? No. Okay? We have Danny, who's an attorney. Jerome is an investment banker, and Mel was the treasurer. variety of experiences there, all with an understanding of how those parts of the economy are affected by monetary policy. So I'm on soapbox a little bit. I think we need to fill the vacancies. I apologize. I get sort of excited about that. So they're going to serve 14-year terms. Why the 14-year terms?
Dang. That's a long time.
It is a long time, not for life like a Supreme Court judge, but 14, we want it to be beyond the time period of the person that appoints them so that they are free from that political connection. So you might have appointed me, but I'll be here after you're gone. Right? But is that powerful to be able to say that? Absolutely. And so we want that. It's not say, I don't think anything in Washington is about some politics, unfortunately, but we try to give them as much separation from that as possible. Okay? 12 districts. These districts were created in 1913. The purpose of the Federal Reserve when it was first created was to provide liquidity to commercial banks. What that meant was we didn't have the FDIC, our deposits were not insured. If there was a run on a bank needed to take the assets they had, convert them to cash, and then provide that cash to their customers. So that's a liquidity issue, how quickly they could do that without a loss of value. And so in 1913, where do you think everybody lived? Kind of this side of the Mississippi. Where do you think all the commercial banks were? A lot more of them on this side. And so we see smaller districts on this side, a lot of territory over there, not as many. Bless you. Those territories have not changed significantly. Some little changes over the last 100 years. Okay. There's the banks that are in the Dallas district. Our main bank is in Dallas. 3 branches: El Paso, San Antonio, and Houston. Question?
Can you go back to the other map?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it has the district like numbers. What are the black dots? Are those?
Okay, so those are the branches. So some districts have branches, some of them do not. You can notice that the ones like San Francisco, a lot of branches. Okay, great question. Anybody else? So there we are. This is the FOMC meeting, and that's the third part. We said the Board of Governors about each of the districts. Oh, one other thing about the district, sorry. Each district has a president. The president's responsibility is to gather economic data about that district and report it out to the FOMC meeting, which happens 8 times a year. So if you are the president of the 11th district, and our president is Robert Kaplan, you're going to gather data about what's happening here in the 11th district. So if you're gathering data about Houston, Beaumont area, the Golden Triangle, what's happening right now that's affecting our economies?
Oil.
Price of oil. Not so happy. Okay, I mean, it's really exciting to fill up my car for $14, but it's also really not exciting to fill up my car for $14. And think about all my friends that are unemployed. Okay? What about Dallas? Are they having some of the same challenges? Not as much. Not as much. They have a lot more employment in the financial sector, so not the same challenges. We're seeing a beginning of a little bit of a slide in housing prices there. They're not seeing that at all in Dallas, so very different. What about West Texas? So a mixed story, because there's a lot of drilling that's out there, so those jobs are gone. But we still have agricultural things out there, right? And the drought seems to be over, so that's doing okay. What about the Port of Houston? They expanded the Panama Canal. As a result of that, the barges that are able to come through that have larger capacity, and so the port is projected to do quite well as long as the economy keeps, moving up, improving like it is. What about the 12th district? What's going on up there? Say what? Everything's moving. So she said everything's moving to Texas. A lot of people are moving their headquarters to Texas. Why?
No state income tax.
No state income tax, cheaper property, a well-educated workforce, a young workforce. So when you look at the labor force in Texas, it's really, really young. It's very international, and so lots of bonuses there. What about the weather in California? I know it sounds weird to talk about the weather, but
Perfect.
they have one of the worst droughts ever. It's like if you wash your car in California, people get mad at you because you're not supposed to waste water. So not only do they have dirty cars, but what else is a challenge?
Fires.
So fire hazards, of course, and that's a huge issue in California, but what else?
Baby.
So California is very much like the Valley in Texas. They produce a lot of agricultural products that they ship all across the country. Right? Are they going to lose market share to whom, do you think? Our friendly neighbors to the south? Mexico, right? Because that also is a very fertile area where we produce a lot of good stuff. So a lot of challenges. So they're going to take this information back. So for the people that live in Cleveland, what's happening there? Yeah, not much. I don't have a basketball team that's worth anything. I'm not sure what else is happening. It's whatever. Okay? So, 8 times a year they have something called the FOMC meeting. The FOMC meeting, each of the president shows up with information about their district. If you're interested in what this information is, you can read it online. Let me try this again. You can read it online and you go, wow, exciting. So let's try this, okay? You can read it online. Yeah, awesome. If you can't sleep at night, if you're just like, I wonder what's happening in Cleveland because I just wonder, right? Go online to the Board of Governors website, type in Facebook, and you can look at the 4th District and find out what's happening in Cleveland. You will be fascinated. Why do you need to know this? There's a reason you need to know this. Why do you need to know this?
Because it affects us.
What? That's true, absolutely. But there's an even more personal reason. So how many of you are planning on graduating? I mean, some of you just came for the party and you're staying. I realize, but how many of you are actually going to graduate at some point? Good, good. Send this picture home to your parents, okay? Ask for money for spring break. So here's the deal. When you graduate, people are going to come to campus and recruit you. And they're going to lie to you. They're going to say, move to Pittsburgh, it's an amazing city. Or move to Cleveland, it's really warm there. And you're like, really? I thought it snowed. They're like, no, come visit in August. It's awesome, okay? Yeah, and it actually is beautiful in August. I'm being biased, I'm sorry, that's not nice. But here's what you really need to know. When they recruit you to move somewhere, read the beige book. Why? Because if you're going to go into manufacturing and do logistics, you need to know what the trend is in the manufacturing sector of the 4th District, right? Because if they're telling you that their company is growing at 20% and they're the only one growing, if they're a statistical outlier, something's happening there. You need to know about it and you need to get on board with it, or you need to say, what's happening? Is this data real? Does that make sense, everybody? And so it talks about the key sectors of the economy that drive into those districts. And you can go back and look at every single one of those beige books and say, show me the trends. Here's the other exciting news. There are no graphs in the beige book.
No.
Some of you are like, good, because I don't do numbers, okay? And there are no numbers other than they say, it looks good, it looks bad, it's increasing, it's decreasing. So a regular person can read it. You don't need like a special economics code to open it up. Okay? It's not like Bitcoin where you have to figure it out. All right? So, FOMC, they're all around here. They're at the table and they're going to go around and say, this is what's happening in our district. Then the people from the board are going to talk about it, and they're going to do this. Keeping in mind, this is what monetary policy is supposed to do. Okay? Monetary policy is supposed to create maximum employment, moderate long-term interest rates, and stable prices. That's the goal of monetary policy. So as they go around the room, they're going to say raise prices, lower prices, raise interest rates, lower interest rates, or keep them the same. What happens if we raise interest rates? What happens to overall price of something you're purchasing? Interest rates go up. It goes up. When prices go up, what happens to consumer business spending? It goes down. And when businesses and consumers spend less, what happens to employment? Employment goes down, unemployment goes up. If we lower interest rates, what happens? People spend more because generally the overall price, the final price of a good tends to be less. If people are spending more, businesses are spending more, what happens to employment? It goes up, which means more people have jobs. Oh, it's that simple, right? It's an oversimplification, but that's generally how it is supposed to work. Does it always work? We have a number of tools to make it happen. To change interest rates, we can use open market operations, discount rate reserves, or interest on those reserves. And I will let you take an economics class to hear more about that, or you can talk to me later about that, because that'll get us right into the weeds, and some of you will bleed, okay? I'll do that. So here's the challenge with this. Does it always work? Because I just gave you this great theory. No, why not?
Even though you hire more people, it doesn't mean they're going to be productive.
Say what?
Even though you hire more people, it doesn't mean that production itself is going to increase.
Okay, so what he's talking about is something that is a good comment and has nothing to do with monetary policy, and I like that you brought it up, because what is the bank responsible for? The Federal Reserve Bank, the United States, is responsible for monetary policy. That is ultimately the tools of monetary policy. It's the only way we can change the economy. And what he said is you might hire people, but they might not be productive. Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of the challenges for management, right? How can I hire people and give them, make sure they have the skills they need to be productive? okay? We don't have that diminishing marginal stuff, right? We don't want that. Then we don't need to hire that next person. And we need to know where we want to be on that. All of that is true, but how does that affect monetary policy? See, that's a challenge. People look at the bank and go, but you can hire more people or not hire more people or make them more productive or make them not as productive. And I'm like, all those are true, but they're not about monetary policy. What's fiscal policy? So what's fiscal policy? Taxes.
It adjusts spending levels and tax rates.
What?
It adjusts spending levels and tax rates.
Yeah, so fiscal policy is anything the government does, right? Is the Federal Reserve part of the government? No, I told you that. I'm not a government employee. Okay, so fiscal policy is taxing and spending by the government. Can the government actually hire people? Can they create jobs?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Can the government change taxes?
Yes.
Yeah. What if the government wanted to stimulate the economy? Could they do that?
Buy bonds.
They could send out a notice. Nobody will have to pay income taxes for 2015. What would happen? Yes, that's exactly what would happen. Party! My house! Okay. Yes! That'd be awesome. I'd get a huge refund. It'd be delightful. But would that create spending?
Yes.
What else would it create? Some challenges. Would it maybe affect inflation rates?
Yes.
Would they maybe go above the 2% that the central bank is looking for? They absolutely might. Okay? And so we have these challenges that sometimes monetary policy and fiscal policy don't work together. So we want 2% inflation. Oh, sorry. We want 2% inflation. We want stable prices. But the government has some other things that they want going. Who tells the government what they want?
Voting.
Well, theoretically, people that vote for them, right? I mean, that's a theory, at least. You vote for somebody and they do what you want them to do. It's a thing that's at your top of your mind always. Oh, yeah, that 2% inflation, stable, full employment. Is that always at the top of your mind when you tell them what you want? No, not always. Okay, and so sometimes we're at cross purposes. Make sense, everybody? And so that's a challenge. The other thing is global events. Does the price of oil affect our economy?
Yes.
Are we in charge of the global oil market? I think not. And anybody that's thinking that we are, hopefully has come to the realization that actually we're no longer in charge of the entire world. Right? So, yes.
Isn't that called the hegemonic power? Like whenever a country is like in control of the whole world, like the hegemonic power and its economy.
I'm thinking about that. I'm gonna say it depends. I'm gonna answer like an economist and say it depends. Okay, how's that? Yeah, I have my understatement to say that.
Gotcha.
That's a whole nother soapbox for me. Okay,
Gotcha.
and I'm trying to think. I don't want to get on it. No, definitely. Okay. So, anyways, everybody good with what we do with monetary policy? Right. Any questions on monetary policy? All right. The other thing we do is supervision and regulation. If you're an accounting person, great jobs at the Federal Reserve as an auditor, and supervision and regulation. Okay, so something to think about. We do financial services, so we still count a lot of money. The shredded money I've been handing out is money that's been counted and then deemed unfit to be circulated, so we shred it and give away to people because people seem to find it truly amusing. We're glad that they do. We still actually process some checks at one location, that's our Atlanta location, still processes checks. But most of our movement has been towards electronic processing, and we are very much a player in that field in terms of creating regulation and standards around that.
So it would be like some standards that make money unfit.
People have written on it. Okay. It's actually illegal. We don't take people to court, but we just write it. Yeah. And then there's a summary about what we are. I like this, ultimately it's about that stability, and our mission is set forth by Congress. Congress tells us what to do. Over the 100+ years we've been in existence, they've changed some of our responsibilities. It's important for people to know we don't get to pick what we do. Congress tells us. The latest legislation was Dodd-Frank. You may have heard of it. And Congress said, here's what we want you to keep doing. Here's some duties we want to add to you. And here's some things we want you to do a little bit differently. Make sense, everybody? And so they are in control of us. That's it. Questions? Anything that I piqued your curiosity about? Yes, sir.
Can I see a money bag?
Say what?
Can I see a money bag?
Can you
Like,
see?
yeah, I just haven't seen how
Oh,
shredded
you
they
didn't
are.
get any money?
No.
Oh. Yeah, so I didn't know.
Just think football. Just
Yeah.
yes. Just oh.
Intercept.
That is unfair,
There's
sir.
one right by
Must have
No.
No, it all ends over
the
there.
enemy staff.
You don't have to pass the ball back. Somebody
So, this question was, should we discontinue the $100 bill? The $100 bill is currently the largest denomination that is in print. I don't think we should.
You want to give it to me?
So that's already been done. Yeah. $100 bill is the highest currency that is currently printed. Yeah. If you have something higher than that, you could take it somewhere and redeem it. But my guess is you could take it to a coin store, to a collector, and get more than face value for it. Yeah.
So how has Bitcoin like affected, did it affect you using this?
So Bitcoin has not affected us. Like any alternative currency that's going to be out there, we're going to look at it and see what's going on with it. It's a really small part of the economy. I think the interesting thing about Bitcoin, in my opinion, is that we have some other companies looking at those, and I'm not an IT person, so those chain algorithms, whatever that they use as security features for processing financial transactions to keep them more secure. And I personally look at that as a back, I think would be really cool to use that, because I think the biggest concern we have now is that we do so much of our financial transacting online, and so is it secure? I mean, everybody that you talk to is like, not have you been hacked in terms of your finances, but when is it going to happen? And do you have insurance or protection for when it happens? I mean, that happens to so many people, and so that technology to use that way, I think, is multi-important. Any other questions? Yes. I already gave you money.
No, I know, but my friend wants one for her son.
Well, you can just go way out, so we'll share.
Okay.
We have a whole box
Here,
of
you
it,
can
because
keep
you know
mine.
it's more popular than me. Anybody else? Yes.
Was there a $1,000 bill? Or what happened?
So there actually were bills up to $10,000 were printed. So before we had electronic transfers between banks needed to settle with each other. So we had checks from my bank, I had checks from your bank, we need to transfer those funds. It would have been offered to, a stack of 20s. And so we had really large denominations that were used for bank settlement type things. They were not generally freely circulated.
I mean, did the general public ever get their hands on it? Could they ever use it?
So I'm going to say I don't know, because I've never had cause to need or have the resources to acquire in my life at $10,000. I mean, it's just not happening, okay? So I don't know. I know we have some on display at the bank that people can see, and that's primarily all they use for life. Yes, and if you had enough money in your pocket, you could not want to Question?
People have been talking about doing away with the $100 bill.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think we should, my opinion is that we always want some transactions that are not going to be recorded on our debit card. You know, like when I buy a gift for my spouse and I don't want them to know about it, or I watch chocolate or more than I should, I mean, sometimes we just don't want to track everything. I think it's like
And I add that I sometimes see people in low-income brackets operating on a cash basis, and they often pass $100 bills.
So one of the challenges with that is that we have, and particularly in Texas, this is a challenge, so we have a significant unbanked population. A lot of times we're critical of those people, and I always like to remind people that not everybody that's in this country grew up here. And so think about this. If I came from another country that does not have the same stability in their banking system, then actually it makes really good sense for me not to trust the banking system. So I will tell you that my grandmother grew up during the Depression, and she did not trust the banking system. Didn't matter how many times I told her, Grandma, there's the FDIC, don't worry about it. She would be like, I don't know, And it was just that's how she was raised. I think we need to think the same thing. When you look at another country, they haven't necessarily had that same stability. So people come here and we say, hey, you've worked really hard. Take all your earnings, put it in a bank. It's all good. And then they see on the news that they hear about a bank family like not doing that. And so I think as we have second generation, immigrants that come here that see bank and how it works, so we will get more bank people. But that's one of the challenges we see. I would say anybody that has a $100 bill, they're working really hard. Glad to have them here. It's all good. That's my opinion. If you got that kind of money, great. Spend it. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Would you comment on, it's just out of my mind how the central bank of Japan has been what does that mean? Can we even explain that to
So keep in mind, 7 rate says that rather than you putting your money on deposit with me and me paying you interest, which is how a bank normally operates, I'm going to charge you to hold your reserves. Now, why would you give your money to me even if you know I was going to charge you to hold those reserves?
So we don't spend it?
So there is a security issue, right? You know the money's secure, you know you'll get it back. What are they trying to do? Get banks to loan that money, right? Because they're really worried about deflation in Japan. It has been recurring, it has 7 quarters, I think, right now, where they have just been battling this idea of deflation. So they can get the money out there for people to spend it. Spending creates demand. If we get enough demand, we'll have inflation, right? And so they have that opportunity to get consumers and businesses to spend. They're saying, hey, don't leave your money with us. Find somebody that's creditworthy to loan it to. Is it working? Yeah, not so much. Okay, it actually came up, was a question in Congress when Chair Yellen was addressing Congress a couple days back. Somehow the negative interest rate comment came up, and it's been kind of buzzing in the wire for the last couple of days. Her comment was, I don't think that's a concern here. Keep in mind, about 70% of our economy is driven by consumer spending. So it's significant that the decision by consumers to spend or not spend has a significant impact on our economy. Important. Your decision around spending is really critical. Anybody else? Yes.
I don't know if you've heard, but just your opinion, do you ever think the FDIC will increase the rate to insure?
Absolutely. So we know that during the last financial crisis, when the financial crisis started, that rate was 100,000. Temporarily, they said we're going to go to 250, and then they enacted that as the amount. So 250,000 is the limit. So as we see the wealth that people have, they're going to respond to that as the needs are there. Absolutely. I mean, we want people to trust the banking system, because if we didn't have a banking system, what happens? Guys, without a banking system, I'm living in a mobile home. I did not pay cash for my home, right? If somebody had to put their money in the bank so I could borrow it, literally, I would be living in something on wheels. I'm optimistic it's not a cardboard box, right? I mean, so it's a step up, but that would be a challenge. I had to borrow money from the bank to buy my home. So I'm really glad that we trust our banks, because somebody had to put their money in there so that I could borrow it. So I think we need to do whatever we need to do to keep that trust there, to keep that stability there. It's critical. Anybody else? Yes?
Do you think that the stock market volatility that's been going on lately is going to affect the Fed's decision about raising interest rates and not letting things come out this year?
So that's a great question. So everybody's watching Chair Yellen, to see if she will speak or say something that might provide an indication. There was a lot of conversation before the decision was made to raise the rates. Then the last time they met, they kept them where they were. They didn't move them. I don't know. I think one of the things that causes that uncertainty, uncertainty causes that movement in the markets. And we have a lot of uncertainty going on. Where is a lot of that uncertainty coming from?
Presidential.
So globally, some instability. But what about right here in our country? Where's the uncertainty?
Presidential election.
So we're having this presidential election, okay? And we have 2 parties. In theory, we have at least 2 parties, all right? And so one of the parties, well, at one time I would have said one of the party knows who the candidate is, but I'm not sure after the last couple primaries, right? And then the other party, oh mercy, okay? I mean, I just don't even know what to say about that. And then there's a bunch of people that think they want the job, but they're not sure. That's conflicting, because if we get a Republican in the White House, will they have a different approach to solving problems than a Democrat? Absolutely. Does that affect the value I place and where I want to put my money? Stock market versus, bonds versus what type of investments I want? Yeah, so I think that's a lot of it. How the Fed responds, I don't know at this point. So we do know that Chair Yellen is very thoughtful, and she is, what I like about her is that she looks at the data as more than just data. So, and the unemployment was one thing she talked about a lot in her presentation. So even though unemployment numbers were going down, she said, what about those people that are not fully employed? We're counting them as employed, but they're still part-time, or they're not getting benefits. And so there's a lot of things. That's probably why she maybe waited longer than some people would have to make that first rate raise. So she looks at numbers, but she also looks at what's behind the numbers. And so I think she'll do the same thing with this decision. I managed to not answer your question and still give you a lot of information. Like a true economist, okay? Excellent. You guys go to
You guys go.
If you guys
So,
have questions, I'm here to chat.
Thank you for coming. Our next